Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Woodstock City Council, November 7th, 2024 edition. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes pages of the city's website, and all councilors are in attendance, so no virtual. We did have a closed session, I'd say this afternoon. We started at 11:30, that went till 1:02 this afternoon. And before we get into things, I'd like to welcome Mr. Hall's grade 10 civics class for being here today. I was in your class on October 17th and we were talking about different levels of government and what we are, and welcome. And just so all of council knows, they will be leaving at some point during the meeting, and I said that was still more than okay, and I'm welcome. I'm really glad to see you all here. So thanks everybody for being here today. Now to get into the meeting. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests? Seeing none. Disclosures of any new business? Matters arising from the minutes? Now the minutes. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Martin, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on October 17th, 2024 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns with those? All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. There's no additions to the agenda that I'm aware of. No presentations or delegations this afternoon. No consideration of planning reports. But we do have consideration of correspondence. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll read this resolution first. It's fairly long. So, okay, whereas municipalities face growing infrastructure needs, including roads, bridges, public transit, water systems, and other critical services which are essential to community well-being and economic development, and whereas the current sources of municipal revenue, including property taxes and user fees, are insufficient to meet these increasing demands for infrastructure investment, and whereas the province of Ontario currently collects the land transfer tax LTT on property transactions in municipalities across the province, generating significant revenue that is not directly shared with municipalities, and whereas the federal government collects the goods and services tax GST on property transactions, a portion of which could be directed to municipalities to address the local infrastructure needs, and whereas the distributing and portion of the provincial land transfer tax and the GST to municipalities would provide a predictable and sustainable source of funding for local infrastructure projects without creating a new tax burden on residents or home buyers, and whereas a redistribution of a portion of the existing land transfer tax and GST would allow municipalities to better plan and invest in long-term infrastructure initiatives, supporting local economic growth and improving the quality of life for residents. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that Woodstock City Council formally request the provincial government to consider redistributing a portion of the land transfer tax collected on property transactions to municipalities, and further that Woodstock City Council calls on the federal government to allocate a percentage of the GST collected on property sales to municipalities, and further that this redistribution of the land transfer tax and GST should be structured to provide predictable and sustainable funding to municipalities, allowing for better long-term planning and investment in infrastructure projects that benefit local communities, thus ensuring that local governments receive a fair share of the revenues to address critical infrastructure needs. And further, that copies of this resolution be forwarded to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Premier Doug Ford, Ontario Minister of Finance Peter Bethlen Bell, a Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Paul Calandra, Oxford MP Arpan Khan, and Oxford MPP Ernie Hardman, and further that copies of this resolution be forwarded to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for their endorsement and advocacy. And I'll make this motion to accept this resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder on that motion? Counselor Martin? Discussion? Counselor Lauder?
I've requested the support of this resolution. I think it speaks for itself as our municipality, like many others, are growing even beyond prior predictions. The resolution is requesting redistribution of provincial land transfer tax and the share of federal government GST collected on property sales to help out the critical infrastructure funding due to growth and aging structures. This is important for the well-being and economics of our community. We cannot keep putting these high costs on the backs of our local taxpayers. That's why I brought it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Martin, a seconder.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Councillor Lauder, thank you for bringing this forward. I fully support the resolution. I think that as a municipality, we're facing increasingly complex situations and needs without a financial toolbox to solve them. I think it's time for municipalities in the province to work collaboratively on like a long-term sustainable, stable funding that can help us balance out our municipal finances as we meet the local needs. In addition to some of what are provincial downloads that you've talked about to keep those from landing on the municipal shoulders. So thanks for bringing that forward.
Counselor Tate.
Thanks through the chair. And also I'd like to thank Councillor Lauder for bringing this forward. This is going to be a big issue going forward. The province has put all these pressures on municipalities to build, but we can't afford it because we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the medical care. We don't have everything that goes along with residential. And as I keep saying, residential doesn't pay its way. So all it does is add an extra burden to the taxpayer. Also reading this, there's been a lot of information come out, a lot of financial documentation that because building has slowed down, so the land transfer tax coming into municipalities into the province is going to be quite low. And so that includes GST. So that's another burden we're all going to have to share. Had a good discussion with the warden from the county on Monday. And I think the other thing we have to push too is for the healthcare. I know that it's probably at both levels, but taxpayers sometimes don't realize that's a responsibility of the province, and we're paying it through our ambulance because it's come to the point now that people are using ambulance for healthcare because they can't get into a merge, can't get into a doctor. So the more pressure we put on the province, the better. But I think all municipalities have to do it, and they all have to be heard. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd like to echo council. Thank you, Councillor Lauder, for bringing this forward. I certainly support it for all the right reasons that everybody has said. It is getting very difficult to meet the needs of our municipalities right now without this sort of sustainable, stable funding that is desperately needed. So thank you again. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next up, 10B, Ontario Child Welfare Services Sector Need for Child Welfare Services Funding. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor to write a letter of support for the financial needs of the Children's Aid Society of Oxford County and the need for sustainable child welfare services.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just a general comment. I think that, it needs to, obviously the work that Children's Aid Society does is extremely important to our community. In my other work that I do, Children's Aid Society is a group that we do work closely with, but I really think we need to consider social services across the board for youth completely, because it is funding that has been continually cut over years, and continues to be cut. And we see that early intervention is the best method we can have for in supporting our youth. So I really hope that while this is being considered, overall social services for youth and children is being considered, because the work Children's Aid Society is doing is detrimental to supporting youth that are extremely vulnerable and in potential risk. But I really hope that this opens the eyes to governments that it needs to be across the board in supporting our young people.
I agree. Counselor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on this. Social services across the province are underfunded. They are every single Children's Aid Society in the province right now is running at a deficit, which makes it incredibly difficult to provide the much needed services to house youth in our community. In fact, we just saw a report recently at the county that there of our homeless community, of which 116 people are on the by name list, so that's a list of people who have identified, self-identified that they are homeless, 9% are youth. That's a direct result of underfunding of Children's Aid Society, and it's a shame. It's shameful that this is happening in our community. We've just had a resolution talking about the burden that falls on the municipal shoulder, and this is one of them, that we end up with police calls, we end up with ambulance calls, we end up with encampments, we end up with all of these costs locally because agencies like Children's Aid Society are underfunded. And so I encourage the mayor to write a strongly worded, enthusiastic letter saying that support for CAS is desperately needed in our community. Otherwise, we face local repercussions that everyone has to pay for. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Tate?
Yeah, through the chair, I agree with the comments. I talked to the CFO at the Children's Aid, and there's some Children's Aid societies the province has now taken over because of the deficit they're running. But another thing that goes along with this, and I'm sure Councillor Wismer is aware of this, with these social agencies, it's hard to get staff and it's hard to get volunteers. So speaking to them, it's difficult because they're not paid probably the rate that they should be paid. So it's difficult to get staff, and it also leads to the deficits because they've had to do other things to encourage people at the position. So I would question if also this letter that you're sending, as in the last resolution, if we should be sending something to all municipalities to endorse the letter that the mayor is sending. Is that something that would make sense? It'd be good to take a lead on this, see how important it is, and send it off to the rest of the municipalities.
I'm going to take that as a question to me. Absolutely. I've got no problem. I'm very excited to write this letter, fully support it, and definitely have got some thoughts already together. And with council's blessing, then I'll share it with all of our neighboring municipalities and we'll forward that on. Does that need to be added to the, yes. Yeah, would you like to go around to all Ontario municipalities? Yeah, so is that a friendly amendment? The first and second are okay with that? No issues at all? Okay, so we'll add that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tate. Councillor Schoenberg.
I just wanted to state that the initial correspondence was signed by our warden, Marcus Ryan, and and as his very first sentence says, is on behalf of the Safe and Well Oxford Steering Committee. Just a reminder to anybody who maybe missed it or didn't hear about it, that the Safe and Well Oxford communities really had a nice focus group last Friday, 6 days ago in Oxford Center at the hall there. And just about everybody from City Council was there. I think all the mayors were there, except for one that I could think wasn't there. And of course, Marcus Ryan, the warden, was there, who's also the mayor of Zora Township. But great focused day for talking about items like the social services and everything under the sun, to be able to sort of say, well, let's make sure as well as we can that people and children don't fall through the cracks.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Well, again, I'll just simply say that I'm excited to write this letter and try to get as much support as we can because all of our social services are in dire need, and it does start with our children, in my opinion. So with that, if no further discussion, all those in favor? None opposed? Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation from staff and approved agents. Anand Dazia, North Woodstock Recreation Facility Study. Welcome. And I'm excited you're actually doing this with all the students being able to watch this as well. It's kind of exciting.
I was going to say the same thing, Mr. Mayor. It's, I think, an opportunity because, well, community centers are used by all ages, but certainly I would suspect most, if not all of the folks here today, again, across the gallery, but our youth and teens in particular, how they make use of these facilities for programs, for sports, for arts and culture, even just safe and positive spaces to congregate. Is this a touch screen? Sorry, I'll see my mouse cursor move. Oh, there it is. Okay. There. Yeah, no, go
While
ahead.
you're loading that, we spoke at a little bit of length during the class about this coming forward, so it's quite exciting that they're here, so.
Well,
thank you. Please
absolutely.
go ahead.
And community centers can certainly be considered fun, but they're also very important from a quality of life perspective. As we've talked about you as council just now, the challenges of keeping pace with growth, the need to provide, again, safe, positive spaces. Perhaps it'll be interesting as well to hear the discussion that ensues because you as council certainly are tasked with prioritizing a wide range of infrastructure, recreation services being one of those. Again, thank you, council, for having me here today. Apologize for that long-winded intro. Again, my name is Anand Desai, an associate with Monteith Brown Planning Consultants. Joining me is Jamie Hidima from our office as well, and we've been working closely with staff over the last few months to prepare this study. Really, the origins of this report go back, in fact, to 2015, when the city's first recreation facility needs study was prepared. That study back in 2015 recommended the need for a community center at Cowan Fields. The study was updated in 2021. Unfortunately, the process started, I think, just a couple of weeks before COVID, but we can remember that far back. Again, that 21 study recommended, it validated some of those findings from the previous study. And this particular North Woodstock Recreation Facility is the implementing component. It provides information for council, for the public, in terms of looking at those same facilities that were previously recommended, validating that in fact nothing has changed in the 3 years since, but also looking more specifically at Cowan Fields and providing an indication how a community center could be situated there should council decide, along with the costs of doing so, the capital and operating. Really, what has changed since 2021 is that interestingly and perhaps converse to what we're seeing in many parts of Ontario, is that ice sport participation in Woodstock is growing, and at a rate that is faster than population growth. That was a little bit of a surprise to us. But your user groups have grown their memberships by about 20% since just before the pandemic started. I think that's an important point to note, as well as in 2021, we did see a little bit of capacity kind of in your arena system leading up to COVID. What has transpired really since things reopened is arena uptake, the usage. One would be very hard pressed to find time in your arena today. So whereas we had originally in 2021 identified the need for one ice pad as a replacement to Civic, through this study, we see merit in developing one net new ice pad, so developing a twin pad arena at Cowan Fields. Again, that 21 study recommended the need for a community center at Cowan Fields. Really, what has changed since 2021 is that community centers In terms of aquatics as well, the growth in your aquatic program, and I think when I talk about growth, a lot of it is driven, as you've just talked about. The demographic forecast has shifted quite a bit from even 3 or 4 years ago. And so over the course of the last few years, Woodstock has grown at a pace that has outpaced what was originally forecast. And so that's, again, resulting in pressures across the board. So whether it's arena sports, aquatics as well. You know, from what we understand and what we see through the data that your staff have compiled, Southside Aquatic Center, you know, has a little bit of capacity to grow programmatically, but not a lot. It could be, you know, reasonably anticipated to be full in the near future. The city has done some studies subsequent to the 2021 study, which talked about a potential expansion at Southside. I think some work has been done from a geotechnical perspective, from an architectural perspective that suggest it might be a bit more of a complex project if Southside were to be expanded. And thus we can see perhaps the need to develop an indoor aquatic center as part of this new facility. You will see in the report, if you've had a chance to go through it, that we have presented it as an option because there could be a case to be made to, depending on project budget that is available, depending on, you know, again, the rate of growth that will continue, an opportunity to either defer that phase to the future, or again, if we're looking at more of economies of scale in construction and growing into that aquatic center, and I say growing into, you know, build it and slowly ramp up its capacity, you know, that is an option. In terms of another change that came up since 2021, the Woodstock Curling Center or Curling Club has provided input as part of this process, along with other user groups. They indicated to us that their facility is a little bit older. It's approaching certain life cycle constraints, which is, you know, they're not sure how much longer their facility can keep going. And they've indicated that they're willing to talk to the city, explore if there's an ability for them to contribute in some ways to this project, to include curling. And so what our work has done is really validated what was done back in 2021. The 2021 study involved a broad-based community engagement program. So we talked to a wide range of Woodstock residents, area municipalities as part of that process. The focus on this particular validation and design study was to talk more to the user groups as well as other key stakeholders. And so what we have advanced and validated in North Woodstock at Cowan Fields is a twin pad arena, a gymnasium, multi-purpose rooms, a youth and intergenerational space. So again, could be shared, older adults in the daytime, youth kind of after school hours, as well as that aquatics center. In terms of optional components based on design and budget considerations, again, more detailed design, potential for an indoor walking track that emerged as a high priority back in 2021. That curling facility, if again there is the participation by the curling club to the satisfaction, I guess, of the city. And we also know that council recently, perhaps a few weeks back, passed a motion that any new municipal buildings should at least consider the provision of childcare space. So that is something, again, that could potentially be considered through a future design. Really, the report indicates how the community center could fit at Cowan Fields. This is at the north end of the site, kind of with Springbank Drive, bordering the north. About 450 parking spaces. You have 100 acres at Cowan Field, so you're very lucky as a city to have this quantum of land. Land these days is expensive and difficult to come by. So the fact that you do have this flexibility would suggest anyways that a community center could fit. This concept just shows the arena and the gymnasium components. If an aquatics center were to be added, either in the short or longer term, the architects have been able to demonstrate how that would work. And I should note that part of this consulting team did include MGMA Architecture and Design. They have designed, hundreds of recreation facilities across the country and into the States. So, they bring a great deal of expertise there, and both from a concept perspective as well as a costing perspective. Leading me to the costs. It wasn't that long ago when community centers were probably half this price. That being said, we're in a cost environment and in a global environment where there's a lot of pressures driving cost escalations. The community center, assuming a base build with fairly modest kind of finishing. So the architects have estimated 67 million anchored by the arena and the gymnasium. The aquatics component would add another 18 million or so. These are all in 2024 dollars. They have not been escalated. And then those optional components like the track, the curling club, childcare space, those would add another 15 million in capital. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions of council at this time through you, Mr. Mayor. But again, thank you for indulging us. And I just want to say before I close off, we appreciate, I know that there's some members of staff in attendance as well. We hope that we've provided information to council for consideration of this decision, but the efforts of staff to supply us with some of that information, we want to just extend our gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Questions to the presenter, Councillor Schattenberg.
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I'd like to mention from the mayor through Mr. Desai that for the folks in the auditorium, that he was actually a Woodstock Springbank School student. So he's got a lot of connections to Woodstock too. We don't necessarily bring in consultants from North Bay or somewhere to tell us what we need to do in Woodstock. And Desai's been with Monteith Brown for a while. I did do my own personal research, like spending some time at the microfilm at the library. In 1996, we got the Twin Pad Complex and the Golf Community Center and the Gymnastics Center was 13.5 million. And the reason I want to say that, obviously, construction costs have certainly gone up in that amount of time, but that had been just for the building of the four complexes, because later on we had to add dressing rooms to that construction as well. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, the city in a Take Pride campaign raised $3 million. And in fact, about $1 million was raised on selling $100 bricks. And there was 3 major fundraisers that went along with it as well for the municipality to raise $3 million. So I just want to sort of say that as a bit of a preamble, because none of this happens just by city council saying, well, let's do a debenture for 80 million and get this done. It doesn't happen that way, and it doesn't work that way, and it certainly doesn't happen overnight. My question for you though is, the main ice pad at the complex here that you're proposing through your drawings here, would there be permanent seating, say for 300 on each ice pad for minor hockey games or smaller figure skating events, or what would be projected? Because I didn't see in the pictures any real look of seating on either ice pad.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Schattenberg, thank you for the local shout out. And in fact, my mom just retired after operating a physiotherapy clinic in this city down on Norwich Ave for probably 25 or 30 years. But it's always nice to be back. So thank you for pointing that out. But to your question around, I guess, the ice pad and its seating, we are not seeing the arena as duplicating what you have at the complex at Reeves. And so this is, what we believe anyways, is that an ice pad and arena designed really for community scaled, minor hockey really is the prime focus. So yeah, the concepts and the costing have been done with, I guess, fairly standard or community level seating. So, kind of the bench seating or it would not be a bowl seating, it would not be an event venue as you do have at Reeves.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I noticed there is a paragraph in the section talking about embracing green initiatives. I wonder if you could elaborate on that a little bit more, because the city of Woodstock does have a strategic plan, and it does talk about promoting and implementing green initiatives, protect the quality of our air quality and our water, and reducing our energy consumption. the 67 million, does that include green initiatives or not include green initiatives? Is there an upfront cost to green initiatives with long-term savings? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Martin, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely, you know, when we're seeing municipalities kind of across the board in their new builds of whether it's town halls or community centers or other fire stations, they're looking at climate change resiliency, environmental stewardship. So I think that is a best practice. Council may be aware of, the LEED program. That's kind of it's still in effect, but now we have like net zero certifications and things like that. The costing here represents, I would say, a fairly modest consideration of the green, in an effort to provide, we recognize the cost is a lot. And we know that the city collects development charges. But, across Ontario, our experience has been is that development charge funding, especially with the cost escalations, isn't always covering the cost. So we focused on a bit more of a budget, a lower budget to budget. I'm trying to search for the word there. That being said, there is an upfront investment, capital investment in green technologies in pursuit of net zero or environmental aspects. Some of that, you can put a monetary value on in terms of operational payback. If there's energy efficient lighting or you're able to draw from alternative or renewable energy sources, there may be a payback over a period of years in terms of the energy savings. But again, there is that upfront cost as well that one would have to bear. Where I guess I'm going with that, in addition to the monetary savings or that payback, I think it's difficult to put a price on being good environmental stewards. There's an intangible or an intrinsic value to that as well. So again, that's not as easily kind of defined, but it's one that, as you've noted, Councillor Martin, that the city is supporting green building and green development kind of initiatives. So that is something that one would weigh.
Thank you. So just as a follow-up, I think you mentioned this when you met with the Recreation Advisory Committee, or there was some discussion around it, that if an indoor aquatics facility was incorporated into an arena facility, that there is some economies of, I'm not an engineer, air exchange perhaps is the word, that there are some benefits there, that
Yep.
air from one benefits the other, that when you build them collaboratively rather than two standalone structures?
Correct. We have seen some municipalities, not all, that have an arena and a pool, but I have been in community centers where really you're trying to keep an arena cold. So you're getting rid of the excess heat. That heat is then redirected to a pool, which you want to keep warm. And whether it's for domestic water, I mean, that might be more common, like the showers. That's one thing, but I have been in community centers where excess heat from the arena has been used to help offset heating for the actual pool tank. So again, depends on design, depends on the cost, but again, there could be operational paybacks there, based on reclaiming or making more efficient use of energy.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
A question through the mayor. This was something that was asked to me by somebody in the community. With the walking track, would this be similar to like what we see at Cowan Park, where it's, on its own above turf, or has it been considered? I think of like Brantford's community center, where the walking track is around the exterior of the seating for the arena. I know you mentioned that it wasn't bowl seating for this, but cost-wise, what those differences look like. I just think, I was at the stair climb this morning. I see some of the young people that were there, faces are still painted. There's some walking space around the outside, but not wide enough, where in Brantford, it was one of the first times I remember seeing it, where, there was 3 to 4 lanes where, while you're at the game or watching a practice, you're walking around the track. So was that kind of design thought considered in this, or is this standalone walking track?
No, I think, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I should be going through you. Yeah, okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Walking tracks, again, can kind of come in many different configurations, and really, should council pursue this further, the next step would be detailed design. and, you know, establishing your kind of budgetary parameters. But we have seen walking tracks around arenas, both in bowl situations, but also in non-bowl situations as well. We have seen walking tracks suspended and at ground level. The community center in Hanover, for example, if you ever get a chance to go up there, you know, their walking track is more kind of around a fitness area, for example. But we also see tracks suspended above gymnasiums. You usually don't have a track around a gymnasium because, you know, you don't want people running where a basketball player is finishing their layup kind of thing. But, you know, there are creative ways and creative design solutions to integrate indoor walking. I think the key, though, is through at least the recreation facility needs study in 2021, people were really talking to us about the importance of being able to, you know, stay active year round. We live in Canada. And certainly during the winter periods, they're looking for those year-round opportunities to be active in some form.
Counselor Schanberg, you still have something? Yep.
One thing, while I was looking for some information on the recreational facilities in Woodstock, I noticed that the Civic Center Arena had opened in 1969. And obviously AODA compliance and rules have changed a lot since then. And even your last report, the recreational needs study back in 2021, stated a lot of negatives towards that facility. Based on the accessibility of this facility and the age of the facility, what sort of age gap, are we 3 years away from having to close that place, or can we stitch it together for another 7 years, as far as it's just sort of, it's seen its lifespan end?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, I can't comment. I mean, we didn't do an engineering kind of analysis. City has done building condition assessments. I mean, I will say this, the first time I skated was at Civic Center. And like Civic Center, I'm kind of limping into this room on crutches today. But you know, staff are working very hard, you know, to keep that facility functional. But again, there comes a point, right, where you know, one has to make a decision. Is it worth the reinvestment into that facility versus putting that investment into a new facility that's gonna, you know, is gonna last another 40 or 50 years? That's where we're kind of coming from through this rec facility study, as well as the community center study. I think it would be very difficult for this city if there was a, you know, some sort of catastrophic failure. And I say catastrophic from, like, you know, mechanical equipment where it's going to cost a lot of money. You know, it would be very difficult, I think, for this city to absorb the loss of an ice pad due to an unforeseen circumstance. And so by, you know, replacing it while it is still functioning, you can continue to program Civic Center until the new arena is built, at which time you can kind of, you know, let it sail into the sunset, I guess.
Anyone else? Well, I'd like to thank you, but also all staff that have been working on this project. I'm really excited to see this, and the thought of one day in the semi-near future, we'll call it, to have another community complex here in the city is exciting. We'll just figure out what that looks like as we go along. So with that,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, council. Appreciate it.
No resolution is required as this refers to department report item 14.D.2, a little later on. No mayor's report tonight or council reports, but we do have some department reports. From engineering, 14B.1, 2024 Tour of Lights. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council directs staff to take the necessary steps to continue the Tour of Lights program with all ticket sales proceeds going to the United Way and donation proceeds to go to the Salvation Army, and further that a paratransit option be included for the Tour of Lights program in 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did connect with staff on this, and I sit on the Accessibility Advisory Committee, so there has been discussion based off of, say, last year's Family Day event, that it's great to have these one-off special events that the city of Woodstock contributes to or contributes transit. But it does make it problematic when conventional transit isn't running, therefore paratransit isn't running. So I, again, connected with staff on this to see if there was a way to include that. So everyone in the community is included, but if someone lives, far north, they will have a means to participate in the tours of lights should they want to. So just something that I didn't want to see missed, and I'm happy to ask Mr. DeHaan to just speak to kind of the logistics of what that would look like.
Is that a request? Okay, Mr. Don.
Your worship, through the counselor, excuse me. Yes, we've talked to Voyago, who is our provider for para services, and they've actually offered to donate their services for this event, for their dispatch for the driver and for one bus, and only charge us a nominal amount for the second bus. But basically what will happen is any para users who would like to do the tour will call, make an appointment just like they would on a normal trip. Pickups will start at 7:30, go till 8:30. The bus will then do the tour of lights with the para users on the following the same route that the conventional buses use, and then after that they will then drop off all the users back at their residences.
Thank you. And please thank Voyago. Anyone else? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I just wanted to thank Councillor Leatherbarrow for adding that piece in there about the paratransit, because I think it's important that we're making this an inclusive event. I think there's a lot of folks that will really enjoy something like this that don't always have the opportunity. And as Councillor Leatherbarrow mentioned, it can be a bit of a barrier for them. So I was really pleased to see that come forward. So thank you to you, Councillor, for adding that piece in, and happy to support that. And also this event, it supports two great local initiatives of United Way and Salvation Army.
Thank you. And I just literally, we're being watched right now. I just got a question asked over social media. When do tickets go on sale if this happens? So I guess this is directed to you, Mr. DeHaan. Has that been further discussed?
Your worship, we don't have an exact date yet since we were waiting to get approval.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Councillor Lauder.
Through the mayor to Mr. DeHaan, just wondering how many people can go on the paratransit at one time? Is it just one, or there's two or three that could use it?
Your worship, through the counselor, a para bus can hold 10 riders at a time.
Thank you for that information. And I know it is a wonderful trip around. Last year was my first time to do that. And I really appreciated it, going around and seeing all the lights. And a friend and I went, and it was our first time to do this. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for the people to see the lights in the city.
Thank you. Anyone else? So for those watching, of course, we're talking about Sunday, December 8th and the 15th in the evening is being proposed in the report. Nothing further. We'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Stay tuned for ticket sales availability. And for those that don't get tickets, don't panic. For $5, which is also a donation, of course, you can buy a ticket and drive around with yourself and your family around the same route. And do that is something I've participated in for many years. Councillor Lauder? Oh, a map. Yeah, and buy the map. Sorry, thank you. Cultural Services, 14C.1, Art Acquisition Reserve Fund. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council grants the Woodstock Art Gallery request to draw out $2,250 from the Art Gallery's Art Acquisition Reserve Fund, account 0180-52004-0525, to purchase the artworks as identified in the report for the gallery's permanent collection.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tate? Discussion or questions of council? Councillor Lauder.
Could we have Ms. Reed come and speak to this, and then if there's any questions after?
I suspected we were going to ask her to come
I
forward.
had a feeling.
Welcome.
Hard to see. Where the mouse is, there it is. All right, thank you, Councillor Lauder. Good afternoon, Mariachioni and members of council. I'd like to introduce to you all Danielle Hovenaers, the Woodstock Art Gallery's head of collections. Danielle, if you can please come and join me at the podium. As outlined in the report, the gallery has committed to acquiring 4 exceptional works for the permanent collection. The gallery's permanent collection is held in public trust for the enjoyment and appreciation of all citizens of Woodstock. And to offset the cost of these purchases, the gallery has applied for a grant, which we were hoping to hear about by now, but unfortunately we have not. So as you can appreciate, we would like to pay the artist prior to the year end, which I'm sure our treasurer would appreciate. And we're requesting an additional $2,250 to be drawn out from the art acquisition fund to cover off these expenses in the event that the grant is not successful. I just want to remind everyone that the art acquisition reserve fund cannot be used for any other purpose besides purchasing artwork. And I'm now going to turn the podium over to Danielle, who's going to provide you with more information about the works that are being acquired.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, everyone. All 4 of the proposed acquisitions I'm presenting meet the Woodstock Art Gallery's mandate to collect artwork that represents exhibitions that have been hosted at or by Woodstock Art Gallery, as well as our mandates to collect artwork by regional artists, artworks of high quality, and by artists of national stature. Our first acquisition is this sculpture by Nicholas Krombach titled Xenolith 3. It is a wall-mounted sculpture made of found objects embedded into cast aluminum. In 2023, Woodstock Art Gallery hosted Krombach's solo show called Landslip in our community gallery on the 2nd floor. You can see Xenolith 3 here on the wall on the right-hand side of this image. And the large sculpture in the center was actually featured at Art Toronto quite prominently this year following the exhibition. You may also recognize Krombach's name, as he was commissioned in 2023 to create Woodvane as a public artwork for the Florence Carlyle Park here in Woodstock. Nicholas is from Kingston, Ontario, and graduated in 2012 from OCAD's, a sculpture and installation program, and he's won multiple awards and grants for his work. This second piece is Francis Thomas's acrylic painting Shouldering from the exhibition In Conversation, which featured artwork by Thomas and by Ron Shubrook. In Conversation was curated by Woodstock Art Gallery director and curator Mary Reed. This exhibition was very significant for our institution as it is a traveling exhibition that is currently touring to the other public art galleries listed here on this slide. Thomas is from Barrie, Ontario, and she has a BFA and an MFA from York University. It's also notable that Woodstock Art Gallery's permanent collection includes multiple works by Shubrook, who was the other exhibiting artist in this exhibition, but none by Thomas. This acquisition and another I will present in a moment fulfill the WAG's mandate to collect more work by women artists. These next 3 works are by Terry Graff. That includes 2 paintings, shooting gallery painting here, COVID-a-thon from Dusk Till Dawn, and this mixed media assemblage sculpture called Wind Up Warbird. These works are all from Graff's touring solo exhibition called Avian Cyborgs. This exhibition was on display at Woodstock Art Gallery from February 17th to August 17th of this year, and saw a large degree of engagement from the Woodstock community. Graff is originally from Cambridge, Ontario, and he holds numerous degrees, awards, and honors for his work, and is also an accomplished curator and gallery director himself. He has ties to the Woodstock and the Woodstock Art Gallery that go back to his very early career. This is Migration by Irma Makaronaita, and it's from the exhibition Inspired by Mother and Daughter, which was hosted at Woodstock Art Gallery from February 17th to June 22nd of this year. Here it can be seen on display in the main gallery alongside its related painting titled The Longing that was donated by Irma to the gallery. These two paintings are a near diptych in that they are strongly related and intended to be shown together. A few years ago, Irma relocated from Toronto to Norfolk County and has since been inspired by her rural surroundings and by her mother's work. All of the pieces I have presented have been reviewed in depth and accepted by Woodstock Art Gallery's Collections Committee, which is comprised of community members with experience regarding and professional knowledge of the arts. Collectively, these works would be excellent additions to the permanent collection. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Any questions? Seeing none? No, then I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor? Sorry, Counselor Tate?
Sorry, I didn't have a question to the presenter. I just was gonna make a comment after.
Okay. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for coming. Discussion, Counselor Tate.
Through the chair, and while they're all leaving, I'm hoping that the high school students will participate and walk through the gallery whenever you have spare time, because it is very interesting and you actually might enjoy it. And I just want to do a shout out to Danielle. She's new. The first collection that she did was for Betty MacArthur. And Jackie Poole, her daughter, was very impressed with the presentation. And I know she mentioned at the day of it, but just for the publics and council, you did a fantastic job. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Anyone else? No further questions or discussions, and all those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Next up, presentation of exhibition, John Hartman, Many Lives Mark This Place at Embassy Canada, Washington, DC. And I would welcome Director Curator Mary Reed back. If that is okay, looking for a motion on the floor, sorry. Counselor Tate?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the report regarding the presentation of the exhibition John Hartman, Many Lives Mark This Place at the Embassy of Canada, Washington, DC as information.
Thank you. Seconded by? Counselor Lauder? All right, discussion. Yes, we are. Yeah, totally. Them getting up and walking out has obviously thrown me off, so my apologies.
I just want to have a few remarks about the trip that we recently went down to the Canadian Embassy in Washington, D.C. First off, I'd like to acknowledge Mary Accioni and Brad Hammond, our Economic Development Officer. I want to thank them for taking time out of their busy schedules to join me and help celebrate this presentation down at the Embassy of Canada in Washington, D.C., which was a very unusual place to be given the outcome of yesterday's vote. I'd also like to extend my sincerest gratitude to the efforts of the staff of the Embassy of Canada, with special thanks to Julie Ballard, who is the head of public affairs, and Alexandria Zonik, who's the public affairs coordinator, who helped us all along in terms of mounting this exhibition across the border. This exhibition certainly has marked some career highlights for me personally. As the council report attests, there are only 4 galleries that are attached to Canadian embassies internationally, and to have the honor and the distinction to be selected to not only mount this exhibition at Canada House and at the High Commission to the United Kingdom, as well as the gallery at the Embassy in Washington, D.C. is quite amazing. We were shortlisted for Tokyo, but didn't make it all the way, unfortunately. As the report attests, Mary Accioni and Brad Hammond certainly made some key contacts while they were down in Washington with the intent to spur on future economic partnerships that will further support the growth of Woodstock. And during the remarks at the reception, Mariachione mentioned, and I'll quote, "This exhibition truly highlights how the soft power of cultural diplomacy is at the front stage of Canada's foreign policy." And this comment really resonated with the Major General Michel Henri St. Louis, who is the Canadian Armed Forces Defense Attaché to the United States, who posted the following comment on his social media channels. "Sometimes military diplomacy makes way to art diplomacy. I got to experience this last night at an event that celebrated our current exposition of the work of John Hartman, a Canadian painter and member of the Order of Canada. Benefiting from his presence, the embassy was able to use art as a means of promoting cultural understanding and cooperation between nations. His work is a powerful tool to promote cultural understanding while breaking down language and other human barriers." Other highlights of the delegation included a tour of the White House that was actually arranged through our sister city in Sylvania, Ohio. And I want to thank Mayor Stow's office, as well as thank our sister city colleagues and Ann Ash, the administrative assistant to the mayor and the CAO, for making this happen. I also had the opportunity to visit the National Museum of Women's Art, as well as the National Gallery, with aspirations, because, I like to think big, of fostering a presentation of our very own Florence Carlyle, whose work is the pillar of the Woodstock Arts Gallery's collection. And finally, I would be remiss not to thank my team at the gallery. While I was running around Washington, they were keeping all of the regular operations of the gallery humming very well in my absence. And I do want to mention that this project would not have been possible without the support of the various funders: Canada Council of the Arts, the Government of Canada, the Province of Ontario, the Nicholas Metavier Gallery, which is John Hartman's commercial dealer, as well as a very generous anonymous private donor. And all in all, this was just another incredible opportunity to showcase Woodstock, Ontario on an international stage and really to demonstrate the power of cultural diplomacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, Ms. Reed? Questions or comments? Councillor Lauder.
This is just a comment. I'd like to I think we should be very proud of two exhibits going outside of our Oxford County, Woodstock, in the city of Woodstock, and selected to show in the US and in Britain. And I just want to thank Mary for going above and beyond in getting us involved in this. And I think it showcased what our art gallery really has a high regard in other places other than just Woodstock. So thank you for this.
Thank you.
I'll just add actually that you've been successful in 3 international art
yes.
exchanges, of
Yes.
course, one being with Sylvania, Ohio last year as well. So in 2 years, 3 different international art exchange. So I'd like to echo that we're very lucky, and it's certainly not lost on myself or anyone here in the city that you put us on a world stage when doing this. And we would never get those opportunities to speak to some others in other countries and other locations without your effort. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Sorry, Councillor Tate.
Sorry, and I have to comment every time that Mary is in front of us, and for the public to know, we are extremely lucky to have you as an employee and in charge of this. Because I've been around a while and I fully appreciate everything you do for the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming here tonight or this afternoon. I'm so used to evening meetings. With that, if anything further, any other questions or comments before I call the vote? All those in favor? None opposed. That's unanimous. That is carried. Next up, Parks and Recreation, 14D.1 Pavilion donation. Looking for a motion. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the allocation of a James Leslie and family donation of $500,000 to build 2 park pavilions, one on the north shore and one on the south shore of Piddock Park.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Schattenberg. Discussion, Councillor Tate.
I don't think we can thank this family enough for what they've done for the Piddock area. I know 3 generations of the family and they are all the same. They are all very community oriented, very nice people, give back, quiet about it, but it's been amazing. And I'd just like to point out, because this would go back to Mr. Connor's department. My dad was always stressed, you be kind to everybody, you respect everybody, even people of no consequence, because you don't know what will become of it. And you just be fair to people. So from my understanding, Mr. Connor's department was extremely kind to their granddaughter. And I believe this is how the initial conversations took place. So thank you very much for your staff. And for I don't know how we thank the family, but for the benefit of the city, what has transpired because of those communications and the relationship that was done. So thank you.
Yes, for sure. Well said. Anyone else? I'd simply say thank you as well to the entire family for their generous donations and thoughts of here in the city. And with that, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Thank you again. Next up, 14D.2 Recreation Facility Study. Councillor Leatherborough?
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council directs staff to obtain public feedback on the North Woodstock Recreation Facility.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions? Councillor Tate?
Just through the chair, just a couple comments, and it's interesting. Thanks to Councillor Schattenberg for doing all that research, but just for some history. So the initial community complex was not built till 1996, but it was a group of 5 individuals in the community that started it. And I thought Mr. Plant would come to the meeting today as he was instrumental. So he was with the city at the time at the development officer. And there was my father, Murray Coulter, one other police officer, and I believe Carol Simmons. So they started the discussions back in 1983, and it did not come. So this is how long it takes. It's a very complex, difficult process. And it was grassroots driven, which is very interesting. This time it's come to us first, but the fundraising part started with that group also. They understood. So I believe they came to council with the fundraising already there. So I just for council's benefit, and Paul has a wealth of knowledge on it because he was there, the things that were done wrong and the things that were done right, because he was actually with the city. And the interesting part was the childcare component was completely funded by the province. So he said, we never would have done it without it. So there's all these partnerships too that we need to take into account when we do this. So I hope when we're doing this community participation that we have, like the last time we had public booths, we have people at city staff at sidewalk days on our website. People are able to download the document, make comments, because we need as much as possible. But I want the public to be aware, this is not getting built like anytime soon. It is a lot of work and it's a lot of money, but we need everybody's participation in it and buy-in because it's a lot of money.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Maybe a question for Mr. Connors, if I could. I did have people ask what the public feedback might look like, and I know Councillor Tate kind of touched on it a bit. Do you have any plans, or how typically would this look in getting the public's feedback on a project like this?
Your worship, through the councillor's question, generally a project like this, we will try to do quite a long period of feedback to get as much of the community involvement as possible. These are early days, and I would be looking to more professionals to help me with that. In-house professionals, perhaps. We have a very skilled communication manager that would probably help on that as far as getting that information out and bringing it back. So that would be the process, but it certainly won't be a very small window of time. There'll be lots of time for input.
Thank you. I believe Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Actually, Councillor Wismer Van Meer asked my question, so thank
Okay.
you.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship to Mr. Connors, I don't think I heard you, or maybe you didn't say it, so I'm assuming that would just begin this long, public engagement process, but looking to the new year, I would assume?
Your worship, through to the councilor's question, yes, probably starting an engagement process around the holiday end of year season wouldn't be a good idea. So we'd probably be looking at the new year.
Okay, well, that was my question. So, Councillor Lauder.
Thank you, through the mayor to Mr. Connors. In a survey, would there be the figures that have been given to us in their 2024 and they're just estimates? People, there's lots of people want, there's lots of wants, and then there's the needs. And would there be figures, just some idea, this is what we were looking at a 2024 costing, and so that people really know what it's going to cost in the end. So I just wondered if that would be included.
Your worship, through to the councilor's question, yes, I believe that a survey that doesn't include what the fiscal costs of each area would be tends to be skewed to, yes, we want everything. So it does need to have what the dollar amount or estimated dollar amount would be as well.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Well, call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Nothing from economic development this afternoon, but we do have clerk's department, 14F.1, 2025 regular council meeting schedule. Looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. The Woodstock City Council meeting dates for the months of July, August, and December 2025 and January 2026 be scheduled for 7 p.m. on the following dates: Thursday, July 10th, 2025, Thursday, August 14th, 2025, Thursday, December 11th, 2025, and Thursday, January 15th, 2026.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion or questions of staff? I do have one, and I meant to ask this earlier, so I'll ask it now. County Council, they on the same schedule yet? I'm unsure, and maybe I can look at my, okay, perfect. That answers that question. Thank you so much. Anything further from anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. We have our dates moving forward. Nothing from Chief Administrative Officer tonight, Human Resources, Fire Services, or Public Works, or IT. Nothing for Special Committee and Advisory Task Force. No new notice of motions, but we do have new business. Councillor Tate.
Excuse me, that Woodstock City Council provide a $500 grant to the Woodstock Baptist Cemetery funded from the Community and Social Wellbeing Reserve Fund in order to provide support to clean up an encampment on the cemetery property.
Thank you. Man. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Martin. Discussion, Councillor Tate.
Thank you. Yes, I've sent all the pictures to council, so they're aware, but just for the public, Mr. Tree is here actually, and he's in charge of the Baptist Cemetery side. So the cemetery split into two sides, the Presbyterian and the Baptist, and that ended up in the private property section of the Baptist Cemetery. So this encampment was started, and we were able to get the police in there because it was private property, and they were able to remove them. But within the 3 weeks they were there was a large collection of garbage, and it was a lot of damage was done to the trees and stuff around there. So this is the $500 it took them 3 workers, Mr. Tree and 2 of the helpers, 8 hours for the 2 days, and then they had to take it to the dump because it is private property. Obviously, city can't go in and clean it up. But I will say I appreciate the city. There was 8 grocery carts, so the staff pulled them out the cemetery staff pull them out to the street and the city did pick them up. So we appreciate that because that was a lot of work. So that is the reason for my motion.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. That brings us to draft bylaws. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Counselor Tate, that the following bylaws be given a second and third reading. 9717-24, 9718-24, 9719-24.
Thank you. Did you read the bylaws?
Do I need to read the entire, okay,
First time,
the
first,
first reading? Okay.
yes.
After 2 years, maybe I'll figure this thing out one day, right? Okay, so the following, moved by myself, Counselor Wismer Van Meer, seconded by Counselor Tate, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9717-24, a bylaw to amend the City of Woodstock Municipal Code Chapter 745, Maintenance Occupancy Standards. 9718-24, a bylaw to provide for the dedication and naming of parts of highways in the City of Woodstock. And 9719-24, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 4975-74, a bylaw to provide for the naming of certain highways within the City of Woodstock.
Any questions or concerns with those? All those in favor? Carried. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Second time's a charm. Moved by myself, seconded by Counselor Tate, that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9717-24, 9718-24, and 9719-24.
Thank you. And last chance, any questions or concerns? All those in favor? That is carried. None opposed. Questions and address members of council. Tonight, we're going to start with Counselor Tate.
I just want to make mention, I wasn't able to attend because of, there was an art gallery event, but it was Woodstock Hockey Day. There was a presentation made for the bench out the front. So it was in memory of Al Murray. And it was requested from his wife, Charlene Buchanan. So Al Murray had passed away due to a workplace injury. And she had asked the company that they donate this bench in his name, and it's out the front of the up front of the Reeves complex, because he was always known as the coach of the vets. He was also known as the mayor of Woodstock because he always had comments of what we could do better, and the same with coaching the Navy vets. So Charlene still goes to all the games. She has a season's pass. So I just want to give a shout out that when you're in there, please notice the bench. Anybody that grew up long time in Woodstock knows somebody from the Murray family, because there was a lot of them. But it's also, it's a good, like I said before, it's good entertainment. It's cheap, local kids, a lot of local people. And it's just a good time. And I'd also like to mention that our own Ann Ash volunteers quite often there. So not only does she put in 1 million hours at the city in all her hours, but she donates her time to the Navy vets too. That's it.
Yes, thank you. Counselor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I had two things that I wanted to highlight. First of all, Southwestern Public Health is updating their strategic plan, and they are seeking public input. So just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. Public health is a pillar within the healthcare system. Hospitals, primary care, and emergency services provide healthcare to individuals, but public health focuses on health at the local municipal level. The strategic plan will outline where the health unit will prioritize its work and funding allocation within their 3 key areas of focus. And so your input is valued in this process. As a city, a portion of our taxes do go up to the county level, which then in turn goes up to public health for a handful of costs that are not fully funded by the province. So it really is important for Woodstock to have their say. The second thing that I wanted to highlight is 2 weeks ago when we were here, I was mentioning that we would be traveling to Sylvania, Ohio for our Sister City Exchange. So Councillor Wismer Van Meer, Mayor Accioni, and myself sit on the Sister Cities Committee. And Sylvania, Ohio, which is about 3.5 hours south of us, is our sister city. And we have a long-standing relationship with them. I believe it's 32 years now of exchanging, going back and forth, talking about community, talking about social well-being, talking about events, talking about economic prosperity. It's our opportunity to learn with and from each other. So 2 weeks ago, we traveled there for their fall Harvest Festival. In a couple of weeks, they will travel here to be a part of our Santa Claus Parade. But while we were there, we had an incredible time of interaction and relationship building and learning. And I won a door prize during that. It is a beautiful handmade basket with the brand new Sister City logo right embedded into it. It was handmade by a Sister City Commission member from Sylvania. And I felt that this really needs to be the property of the city of Woodstock. And so today I donate this to the city. I know that it'll probably be Anne that finds a home for it in a display case where the entire community can enjoy and appreciate just a small piece of the relationship that we have with Sylvania. So my appreciation that we were able to attend, and this is now the city's.
Well, thank you very much for that. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
First and foremost, I have to publicly apologize. I know I had folks reaching out to me this week. I had a bit of a medical episode over the weekend and ended up in the hospital for about a half a day where it's the first time I've had to use our emergency services in 16 plus years since I was pregnant with my second child. So I really want to thank the staff there. They were very caring. They, took very good care of myself and my husband, and were very understanding and patient. And I know that people will often speak down because they get frustrated waiting in emergency rooms. But I can't say anything negative at all. So I thank them for their care. And I'm feeling better day by day. I'm getting better. But I apologize to those who reached out that I did not get back to. I was hanging on by a thread most days. So I do apologize. If you called me and I didn't return your call, I was not ignoring you. And this week was kind of an emotional week for folks that, pay attention to elections and such. And I think as myself, as a female, I was hoping for different outcomes. But one of my good friends posted something. Anybody that knows my friends, we don't call each other by our first names. So if you know, you know. Buckman posted this week. And it's actually a quote from Anne Frank that I wanted to share. It says, "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder, which will destroy us too. I can feel the sufferings of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come right, that this cruelty too will end, and that the peace and tranquility will return again."
Thank you. Wow. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Want to announce Operation Sharing is holding their vendor bazaar and silent auction this Saturday, November the 9th at College Ave Church from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I've been told that there are a lot of exciting items there, so get out and check that out for fundraising to help out Operation Sharing. And on Saturday, November 16th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Southgate is holding their Christmas bazaar at the Sally Creek Community Center. So it's a chance to get out and start your Christmas shopping if you haven't already started. And from the Art Gallery, just a reminder to everyone about the lighting of the Museum Square event taking place on Friday, November the 15th, starting at 5:30. The Art Gallery will be there and have planned an engaging community collaborative art project. This event is free and everyone is welcome to attend. And I wanted to say a big thank you to Mr. Connors and their staff about our trails. On Sunday, my friend and I decided that we should go to town and do a trail that was highly recommended to us. It was nice, but it was nowhere near what we have. So I just thank you, Mr. Connors, your staff, and everyone who for the wonderful trails that we have. And thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, first of all, today is Thursday, so that means there's a Lions Club of Woodstock bingo. I'd love to say it's every Thursday at 7 PM at Southgate Center, but throughout the renovation time and the addition to construction at Southgate, there will be the odd Thursday that bingo will be not happening. Get a bingo on 54 or less numbers, it's $1,200, so that's a pretty good jackpot. Want to congratulate Bob Armstrong from Giant Tiger in Woodstock. Everybody knows him. He won the President's Award, the Woodstock District Community Chamber of Commerce last night. And that was held at the Colombo Club in Beachville. Bob Armstrong, in fact, the list of the number of charitable organizations he's participated in was extremely long. And when I think of Bob Armstrong, I always think of any kind of a curling bonspiel and being an organizer of the Ontario Tankard and whatnot that he's done as well. So certainly congratulations to Bob Armstrong. Want to congratulate Indwell on 20 years in Woodstock and 50 years overall. Indwell had a kind of a celebration or a birthday dinner or banquet last Friday at Maranatha Church in Woodstock. I attended that, had a good opportunity to talk to Jason DeWard there. He's sort of the regional guy, so in charge of Woodstock and the Haldeman Norfolk, but also the CEO, Jeff Nevin. I talked to him after the dinner was over. What's interesting is Indwell started in just Hamilton, but Woodstock was the second community that they called home at Blossom Park. So now they've got basically 3 buildings at Blossom Park and of course the Harvey Woods Lofts at 18 and Van Sittert. Last thing I want to mention is sort of an obit or a message, because back on September 30th, the mayor and I attended what was called the sunrise ceremony at the Pittock Conservation Area as organized by ISAN. So that's the Indigenous Solidarity Alliance Network of Oxford. And Dan Smoke and Mary Lou Smoke were the guest speakers. And sadly, just this past week, Dan Smoke passed away. So that was very sad to hear that news. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that as well. Before I get into all my remarks, I just want to welcome Jeff Bunn, our new manager of legislative services and deputy city clerk here to the city. We're going to be working a lot together, and I hope everybody has introduced themselves to Mr. Bunn. So welcome. Chamber Awards, of course, was mentioned last night. Always a great event. Congratulations to not only the winners, but all the nominees. If it was up to me, you'd all be announced and win. Grade 9 students, I hope they had fun. We have some parents here today that had some students here, and I hope they enjoyed themselves around the city. And thanks staff for arranging that and ensuring that staff were, the students were, how do you say this, weren't bored. How's that? Friday night, we have the Woodstock Navy Vets game. I'm really excited to participate in that. It is our annual Remembrance Day ceremony, so we'll be participating, doing a puck drop, as well as Monday is Remembrance Day. So I'd really love to welcome everyone out to the Cenotaph, 10:30 Monday morning, and really hope you can come out and pay respects. And with that, we'll call an adjournment. Councillor Schattenberg, second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.